weren't sure we were going to have any friends today, so this is exciting to see you guys here. I hope you guys had a great um, Christmas break, New Year, all of the above. I hope your family's healthy and yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. Hi, Jocelyn. It's good to see your face. Well, let me go ahead and get started. You guys can still see my screen, okay? Awesome. So this webinar is on the topic of time management, which I feel like no matter how productive of a person you are, we all can have room for growth in this area. So I'm so glad you guys have joined us today. I do want to start our timeout with prayer. So if you guys could just bow your heads with me, that would be great. Jesus, I just thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to meet with these students and just discuss how to manage our time better. God, we want to be good stewards of everything that you've given us, and our time is a blessing, and we want to glorify you with it. So we just ask that you would show us how we can better ourselves and just help us to have the diligence to do so. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So we are going to go ahead and get started here. All right. So yes, welcome. If you've never met me before, I am Mrs. Bean. I'm a history teacher here at Enlightium, and we also have Tatiana Smith with us. She's assisting me today. So if you message us in the Zoom chat, it will be either me or her. So you just want to pay attention to the name that's beside, whoever you're chatting if you have a question and you put it in there. And like I was saying before, the goal of this webinar is to discuss the importance of time management for school, and we're going to give you some tips to keep you focused and productive. All right. So I had a starting question for you guys, kind of like an icebreaker, and it is, what is one thing that you wish you had more time for? So this can be something that has to do with school and something you're making time for in school, or it can be something, outside of school. So you can message us in the Zoom chat, or you can raise your hand and share, and I'll give you a second to think about that. Awesome. Rachel shared taking notes. That is such a good answer. I feel like it's so hard to make time to do that. Because it's something that you can just kind of skip over if you want to. You have to have some self-discipline to take some good notes. Just check in the chats here. Jocelyn, if you want to share something, that's great, but don't feel pressured to. I know for me, one thing that I wish I had more time for was just reading in general. I feel like there's so many books that I want to read, and they kind of just sit on the shelf, and I don't make a lot of time to sit down and read a book. So I would love to manage my time better to where I could do more of that. And then, all right. So let's go ahead and move forward. I felt like this was a good question to start off with because it's hard to know why we need to have time management if we don't know what we want to have more time for. I don't know about you guys, but maybe in your school day, you're finding that your school day is taking you longer than you want it to. So maybe time management for you might just mean you want to be done earlier, so that you can have more time in the afternoon with your family or to do sports or, just to have some relaxing time. Um, I know that the beauty of Enlightium can be that you can make your own schedule, but that's also kind of a downfall if we don't have good self-discipline and time management. So, all right. The next thing I want to do is just talk about what is time management? What does the Bible say about time management? Bible says a lot of things about being good stewards of time and wise and all these things. I did share one verse. But so time management is just using your time wisely to get things done. There are lots of different definitions out there, but I felt like this definition really is just simple, and this is what it means. We all have 24 hours in a day, and we get to decide, how we spend that time. And it's just like money or just like any other resource that we have to make good decisions with it. And then the Bible says in Ephesians 5:15 through 16, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. And I felt like this was a good verse to bring up during this discussion because God is challenging us to be very careful. We have free will and we have the decision to make every day with what we're going to do with our time. And we want to do that in a wise way. And we need to always be asking God how can I be wise with my time? And making the most of every opportunity, I feel like is definitely in the time management area. Kind of like when we sit down to work or do school, are we going to make the most of our work day or our school day? So yes, we're going to talk about some tips today so that we can make the most of our time. All right, so I wanted to talk quickly about what are some time wasters before we talk about making good use of our time. I have a quick list here, but I would love for you guys to help me in adding ideas to that list if you can think of any other ones. So I had screen time. So this kind of is the big umbrella top or name for like iPad, phone, any sort of game console or even your own computer, depending on what you are looking at. So when I say screen time, that would be just um, anything anything on a screen that's not school. Being unorganized, here this picture of this kid. He's got a big stack of books and a calculator on top and his computer. There's a notebook that's open kind of onto his computer, and it's kind of a little bit of an overwhelming space. And he's also playing a video game on his computer instead of schoolwork. So we want to make sure that our space is organized and we don't feel visually overwhelmed by what we're looking at while we're working. And that kind of goes into working in a busier area. Also, lack of a schedule. It can be a time waster if you don't have a plan. If you wake up and you're like, I have all these things to do, but I haven't figured out what I'm doing first and second and last. And then the last one is too tired to focus. That actually can waste time because your brain is not ready or strong enough really to do harder tasks when you're sleepy. So those are some time wasters and distractions. Can anybody think of anything else that I haven't mentioned that could be a distraction or a time waster? You can message me or Miss Tatiana in the chat if you have something to share. I'll give you guys a minute to think. Can any of you guys relate to one of these distractions?
I was just getting ready to say screen time is the biggest one for me, Mrs. Bean. Video
Me
games,
too.
YouTube, which has me in a chokehold.
Yes, I totally agree. That's my big one for sure. I have to like turn my phone on silent and put it face down and mentally remove myself from that. Can anybody else relate to the screen time distraction? You can give us like an emoji thumbs up. Oh yeah, Rachel and Jintara. Am I saying your name right? That's a cool name.
Uh, this is my mother's Zoom account. My actual name is Kaikola Permasio.
Oh, can you spell that? I can change your name for you, but I need you to spell it.
Yes, thank you. Kaikoa.
That's awesome. There you go. Now we got your name on there.
Thank you.
Thanks for responding, guys. Yeah, so screen time is hard. I think it's hard regardless of your age these days. So, all right, well, let's keep moving. I just asked you guys this. So the first strategy I wanted to share with you guys is called the Eisenhower Matrix. Has anybody ever heard of this before? If you haven't, it's okay. I hadn't before I started preparing for this either. Okay. So I found this video that explains it. So we're gonna watch it together and then we're just gonna practice together, kind of sorting tasks like you would on an Eisenhower matrix to help you prioritize your tasks. I do need you guys to tell me if you can hear this once I hit play. Yeah.
Do you have a lot of things to do, but you're feeling overwhelmed and don't know where to start? Then this video will show you a simple way to prioritize your tasks in the right order so you can be more productive and have time for the things that matters in your life. There are two factors that define what we do: urgent and important. They both have different characters. Urgent means that it requires your attention right now and has immediate consequences. Important is anything that helps us achieve our long-term goals and values. These are the things that will have a big impact on our lives. However, since they do not have a clear deadline and the consequences of not doing them doesn't appear right away, it's easier to tell yourself you'll do it later, but then later becomes never. The first step is to write a list of all the things you need to get done. The next step is to put each task on your list into one of the following categories. This is called an Eisenhower matrix. Stephen Covey also wrote about this process in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and this method helps you to quickly identify the activities that you should focus on when you're under time pressure, and it keeps you on track with your long-term goals. The first box is for things that are important and urgent. These are project deadlines, medical emergencies, and problems. The strategy is to do it first and do it now. The second box is about what's important and not urgent, such as your health, relationships, and dreams. It's about preventing and planning for the future. The action step is to schedule it and decide when to do it as soon as possible. The third box has urgent and not important activities. These are interruptions, random phone calls, texts, unimportant emails you get, and they often involve the priorities of other people. The strategy is to reschedule or delegate by asking someone else to do it. The fourth box is not urgent and not important. It's watching TV, checking social media, and other time wasters. Even if they're tempting because they require less effort, decide to do it later or avoid it completely. Let me ask you a question. Do you act or react? In order to act, you need to 100% know what's important, what results you're aiming for. If you don't have that, you will get into a reactive mode where you let the urgent, unimportant things direct your actions and thoughts. Once you know your priorities, organize your life around them. Your actions reflect your priorities. And in order to say yes to them, you have to be willing to say no to something else. We all have 24 hours. You always have time to do what you believe is important. It's about respecting your time, and setting your priorities right is a great way to start. Thank you for watching.
All right. So, I thought, like I said before, we could practice using the Eisenhower matrix because it can be a little bit confusing about how these 4 boxes work together. But on this next slide, I found a picture that I feel like makes it a little bit more simple. It still has important and not important here on the left side, which means these top 2 boxes are the most important and the bottom 2 are unimportant. And then it has the urgent, not urgent. So anyways, we're going to talk about it and make it hopefully a little bit more clear. So I have some things that would maybe take up our time or maybe be on our to-do list when we wake up in the morning and have things to do. And so I thought we could practice deciding what part of the Eisenhower matrix we would put this in. And so we'll be asking ourselves, is this something that I need to do immediately? Is this something that I need to plan and prioritize? Is this something that I need to delegate? Like it needs to happen, but I can maybe ask someone else to do this. Or is this something that I should just not be doing with my time right now? So the first one is studying for a test tomorrow. What category do you think that this would fall in on the Eisenhower matrix? Is this something that needs to be done immediately, planned, delegated, or deleted? Awesome. Rachel said do, which is this red box right here that says do immediately. And I agree. Studying for a test, urgent, super important. Even if a test is the next day, you definitely want to get started on studying for that before the day of the test comes. So that is an example of something. If you wake up in the morning, you've got a test coming up, that's going to be at the top of your list. Like, this has to be done today. Awesome job. All right, let's do scrolling social media. Which box would that fall under? You guys can message like Rachel did, or you can raise your hand and answer. Oh, awesome. We have a couple answers here, and you guys are all saying the same thing, and that is delete. Very good. So scrolling social media is a task that, at least during school hours, should be deleted. If your parents are okay with you doing that, you could definitely do it after school hours when you're not trying to be productive. But when we're talking about time management during the school day, that is a delete task, and that goes for me as well. So yes, there was a comment that most people wouldn't do this, and that is true. And that takes some discipline on our end to just say no to ourselves. This is not something that I need to spend my time on during my productive time of the day. All right, let's go to the next one. Working on a long-term project or paper. So let's say that a long-term project would mean it's not due right now, but you know that it's coming. So it's at least a week out, if not longer. So what box would that fall in? This one I feel like could be tricky. It's definitely, okay. Miss Tatiana said plan. Yes. So it is an important task. So it almost feels like we should say do immediately, but it's not due yet. So we just want to make sure that this task is planned and prioritized, but it doesn't have to be done today. So what this maybe would look like is you write on this box, I'm going to plan the outline of my project, or I'm going to write down the topics that I might choose from for my project, where you just do a little part of it, but you're not tackling the entire thing. And so, yeah, let's continue on to the next one. Playing video games during typical school hours. What box would this fall in? Very quick answers here. Good job, guys. Delete. Yes, we should not be playing video games during typical school hours. We would want to delete that task. And I know it sounds funny because we would never sit down and say, okay, today I need to play my video games. But when we think about it, we do need to decide that we're not going to do those things, whatever the distraction is. I'm personally not tempted to play video games during my workday, but I am tempted to pick up my phone and scroll through, YouTube or Pinterest or something. And so I have my own distractions for sure. And so I think when we mentally decide, I'm not going to do that until a certain time of the day, it can definitely be helpful in our mindset. Yeah, there was a comment that some kids take like Game Boys to school. This was an experience in public school. But yeah, same thing at home. I mean, we actually have way more distractions at home, I feel like, because in a classroom, it's eliminated. There's not too many distractions, but at home you have everything that you play with when you're not, in during school hours. So we have to be extra disciplined. All right, next one is completing an assignment that is due today. What box would that fall under? Do, plan, delegate, or delete? Awesome. Rachel said do immediately. And I would agree. So if an assignment is due today, we would want to do that immediately. And make sure that we still make that a priority. And I think that can be kind of tricky to think about when it's an assignment versus a project that we're actually putting off because we just need to plan and make sure it happens later. That's why I think this Eisenhower matrix is so helpful, because it helps us know when things are more important than others and when they need to be done immediately and when they can wait. All right, next one, picking up supplies for a project that's due in 2 weeks. What box would this fall under? Oh, good job. All right, so we have a couple different answers. This one is actually delegate. Delegate for completion because for you guys, this could look like, hey mom, I know you're making a grocery list and I need toothpicks and marshmallows for my science project. Can you pick those up for me? Not my project is due tomorrow and we have to go tonight and get it. So this is thinking ahead and asking maybe your parents for the supplies ahead of time so they have time to plan to get it. And then it's off your list. So that is a task that we would call delegating. It's not having people do work for you, but it's knowing mom and dad are gonna have to buy these for me anyways. I need to communicate ahead of time. All right, last one, watching unrelated YouTube videos or shows, and this would be during school hours for you. Do, plan, delegate, or delete. Great job. Yep, I'm seeing delete answers. Yeah, so we definitely would want to try again, not to be distracted by screens. Excuse me. Well, you guys did awesome with that. Thank you so much for participating. I hope you guys maybe try out the Eisenhower matrix and see if that helps you prioritize your tasks better during the school day. All right, on to strategy number 2. This is called time blocking. We waste large chunks of our day without realizing it, yet we often wonder why we don't have enough time to do everything that we want to do. When you start blocking your schedule, you'll realize that you have room to include tasks that you never seem to have time for. I actually just had someone here at Enlightium suggest this to me, or they were just talking about how they do their schedule. And that was a teacher, but you guys can totally use this as students as well. So I wanted to pass this on to you. This is not a picture of my calendar, but I do my calendar similar to this in that I know that I have a task that I have to do every week, and it is a task that I always put off. So I decided I am going to just on Wednesdays for this hour of the day, I'm going to work on that task. And so now I know when I'm going to do it. And then when that time on Wednesdays come, I focus on that task and I get it done. And so with time blocking, you can make the decision ahead of time on what task you're going to work on at certain times of the day. Another thing with time blocking you definitely want to consider is to do the tasks that you don't really like or that is harder for you in your most productive time of the day. For me, that's mid-morning, like 10 to 12 o'clock. I am probably my most productive. So that's the time of day that I tried to do my harder tasks. Not necessarily harder, but just the ones that like I would probably put that off if I had to do it after lunch. So be real with yourself. Like it's okay to say, I don't really want to do this. So I'm gonna put it at my most productive part of the day. I'm gonna just plan ahead when I'm gonna complete that. So that is what time blocking is. You're just deciding ahead of time, kind of chunks of time that you're going to work on things. For students, it can look like, I know one of you guys mentioned you wanted to have more time to take notes. Taking notes takes so much self-discipline because there's no specific way to do it. Everybody does it differently. It takes different amount of time for everybody, and it definitely depends on the course that you're working on. So maybe you could time block 20 minutes every day to take notes on your classes, or maybe there's a specific class that you know you really need to take some time on and say for 15 minutes every morning, I'm going to take notes for history or for science. And so then you know that you're dedicating that time. And by the end of the week, 15 minutes is over or 15 minutes a day adds up to over an hour of taking notes more than you would have that week. So the time blocking really does add up. And then our third strategy is kind of a group of suggestions that are just to help you stay focused. So the first one is to use a timer. This kind of goes along with time blocking, but time blocking is like writing it on your schedule, and a timer can just be like, I cannot stay focused on this. I'm just gonna set a timer for 30 minutes and see if I can get, this assignment done in that amount of time. Sometimes it helps to know that the timer is going to go off. It kind of pushes you to finish, but you also know there's an end in sight with it. Also, taking short breaks. I also would suggest using a timer if you're going to take a break so that you have some accountability in coming back to working on something. I find that it's easier to take breaks when I'm transitioning between two tasks. If I finish something, I'm going to go grab a snack, take a really short walk, just kind of move around a little bit, and then come sit down. And it's like, okay, what is my next thing to do? So I think taking short breaks personally is better between tasks. But if you're working on a big project, maybe that's a timer situation. I'm going to work on this project for 45 minutes, and then I'm going to take a 10-minute break, and then I'm going to come back to it. Another one is minimizing distractions. This can be tricky at home. Everybody has a different setup with how you're doing school. And so maybe you could talk with your parent or guardian. And if you feel like your area or your space that you're doing school in feels a little bit distracting, maybe you can talk with an adult on what are some ways that I can be less distracted. Maybe if your workspace is close to the main part of the house, that can be kind of tricky. Maybe you could get some headphones to kind of just be around everyone, but not be so distracted. There's many different ways where you can still be in the same spot that you are, but not feel as distracted. I know for me, sometimes that just means cleaning my desk off. I mentally just need less things in front of me. And then also a strategy is to set reachable goals for yourself. In the mornings, if you just want to sit down and say, I really want to get this one thing done today. This is what's kind of weighing on me. I also ask Jesus to help me to know what goals that I need to set, help me to know what I really can achieve. I don't like to end the day feeling like I haven't really gotten anything done. And so I think setting smaller goals and bigger goals is always good. And so I wanted to ask you guys, what is your favorite technique that you use to keep yourself focused? And it can be something on the screen, but it also can be something that you have found that works for you. So Rachel said, being in a quiet room with no distractions. Okay, I totally understand that. I think that's really smart. If that is reachable for you in your workspace to be in a quiet place, I think that's a really good scenario in staying focused. Kaikoa, I think I'm saying your name right, but if I'm not, again, I'm sorry. Chewing on pencils and poking erasers helps me focus. I actually understand. I don't chew on pencils, but sometimes having some sort of fidget thing or like being able to draw, not in a art form, but just kind of like keeping yourself busy while you're listening to something or while you're working on something, I think that is really helpful. So yeah, any sort of fidget device or thing that would help your hands stay busy. Yeah, Kaikoa said, I'm actually drawing right now. I can understand. I have to, when I'm in church, I have to take notes for the sermon or I won't pay attention. And it has nothing to do with whoever's speaking. It's me. It's like I just need something to keep my mind focused on what I'm there for. So yeah, it's good to know that about yourself and be able to help yourself stay focused in that way without it becoming a distraction. And actually, you only know the difference. So it's good to just be aware. Am I focused right now, or is this item distracting me? All right. We are getting close to being out of time. I just realized. So I had some real life scenarios. Let's talk about this one. And then we're actually going to be finished. So this is a real life scenario about Jordan. He is a middle school student who has a project due in science class at the end of the week. At the same time, he's part of a soccer team, and they have a big tournament over the weekend requiring daily afternoon practices. What should Jordan do? What are some ways that Jordan can manage his time well? And you guys can raise your hand or you can message in the Zoom chat. So Rachel said when he doesn't have soccer, he can be studying for his test. Excuse me. That's a great suggestion. So this this is good to know that you actually can do both, right? Like it doesn't mean that Jordan has to quit the soccer team. It just might mean that when Jordan gets home from soccer and gets cleaned up and eats dinner, Jordan might have to be studying for science instead of playing video games or watching TV with his family or some other sort of relaxing type of task or activity. Yeah, so I think this is a good example. This is real life. I feel like there are many middle schoolers and high schoolers that are involved in sports, and it's like, how do you manage school and sports? And I think for a lot of athletes, that means taking time to do that in the evenings, taking time to do that on the weekends, and kind of having to give up other types of entertainment and activity to do so. But if soccer is something that Jordan really likes to do, then it's worth it's worth giving up that extra time. All right. So as we end today, I would like for you guys to be thinking about what is one strategy that you hope to try as you're moving forward this school year and trying to manage your time better? Is it that you want to try the Eisenhower method? Is it that you maybe want to try time blocking your schedule? Maybe you want to try a timer or taking short breaks, minimizing distractions, setting goals for yourself. Miss Tatiana shared the Eisenhower method and time blocking. I agree. I think I want to start trying the Eisenhower method because it visually, I feel like, is really helpful in seeing what's important, what can wait, what needs to be planned. Rachel's going to try taking short breaks. I think that's great to give your brain a little break before you're moving on to your next task. Yeah, so if you don't want to share what your new strategy is, that's totally fine, but definitely be thinking about it. If you don't share here, maybe you could share with a parent or a sibling what you want to try to start doing, and maybe they can encourage you in that direction because it definitely is hard sometimes to have self-discipline in that area. And then that is all that we had for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining and for participating. Starting the school year off super strong and attending a webinar. I'm so proud of you guys for doing that. So thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you have a good rest of your week and weekend. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Bye.